All right, wargaming enthusiasts, I've got a wargame recommendation. I was recently asked about World War I, World War II, airplane-based combat with miniatures. And this is one of my favorite light, fun-to-play war games that scales up so well and just works. If I'm bringing this game to the club, it's very, very easy to find players. It's a lot of fun. That's not to say there is not complexity or potential complexity involved. It scales really well, and it has some very, very unique features. So I'm going to push out some of the checkpoints of why I love this game, and it works for me. And I've given you advance warning because you're going to be like, look, Fritz gave me an excuse to go out and start a new wargaming system and jump into this part of the community. It is a very, very fun game, and I recommend it. Wings of Glory, World War I or World War II. They follow the same engine with some slight differences to capture the technological differences, obviously, between World War I and World War II. I primarily play World War I, Wings of Glory, focusing on that aspect because there's more miniatures for it. And that time period, kind of Knights of the Air and that early tech kind of really fascinates me. I mean, you're really just kind of in this metal and wooden frame with an engine and some machine guns. That's it. That's where you're going. So, and especially some of the bombers and heavy bombers are really kind of creative and interesting with how they play. So focusing in on that, but understanding the rules are very, very similar between both time periods. So in this game, you have your airplane. There's a number of hull points. There's a damage deck that simulates different damage that you can receive, and a deck of cards that shows how your plane is going to move. The mechanics are really interesting of movement, where at the start of the game, you look through your deck at the start of the turn, you look through your deck, and you program out 1, 2, 3. You select 3 cards of the moves that you want to make. Maybe move forward, maybe do a flip, maybe bank to the right, bank to the left hard, maybe stall and slow down. And you have to plot 3 out. So you have to look at where the other planes are, try to guess what they're going to do, and resolve out those tactica. So you put down your 3 flight cards. This represents the tech of the time, this understanding that, you know, the planes are certainly fast, but reaction time and controls and all that aspect. Once everyone's programmed their deck, now this is where things get really interesting about the game, and the first thing that I like. Everything happens at the same time. It's not you go, I go, this team goes, that team goes. So right away what this means is the game plays not only very fast, but as a group game that scales up, I love it. Because you can play 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players on each side. And no one's waiting for their turn. Everyone is doing at the same time with how it operates. And I like that because it's player engagement. Everyone's actively involved, and it plays very fast no matter how many players are in the game. So it really, Wings of Glory is my go-to game where we want big games. We've played, I want to say 8 or 9 on each side with each person controlling a plane. And we have some interesting house rules too with that. We'll kind of cover that in a moment, trying to get into the spirit, the narrative, the fun of the game. So we've all programmed out. First turn, everyone reveals their first card, puts it down in front of their plane. Now the plane is a miniature. What you see is what you get. Fully painted, amazing detail. So right there, that's a bonus too, because I buy the miniatures. I don't have to prep it. I don't have to paint it. There's a base that shows the firing arcs and its stats. You put the card down in front of the base, and you advance the plane from the back of the card to the front of the card. And there's a little arrow if you're going to turn. So literally the cards show you the template and how you move. So everybody moves their planes. Then you move to the shooting phase. You have this stick, piece of cardboard. We've actually got wooden sticks that we've painted out. And it shows, you lay it down on the firing arc. Could be on the front, or if you've got a rear gunner, on the rear. And it either deals 1 or 2 damage cards based on the range. And again, everyone does this at the same time. So if you're in range and you can see it, you deal damage. Now, damage is interesting in this game. You have your hull points, your hit points. If you take, let's say I get hit at short range with a pair of machine guns, I draw 2 cards from that deck. Now, in the deck, there's a variety of cards with numbers on them. 0, 1, 2, and 3. That's how much damage you take to your plane. You don't reveal that to your opponent. And I love this because I'm shooting your plane. I'm hitting you, spraying you with a bunch of bullets. Do I really know how much damage I've done? I mean, you're moving around. I'm moving around. It's just visual. Do I really know how much damage is done? So this idea, like I could be shooting at your wing and I get lucky and it just passes through, or you get lucky, it just passes through, no damage. Would I really know that in the narrative? Or I can really hit your airframe hard and cause that damage. So you draw these cards, and when you equal and exceed that number, your plane is destroyed. But you don't reveal them to your opponent. Now, there's other cards in the deck that are special cards which cause additional damage. A jammed rudder, a damaged engine, a pilot hit. These cards, depending on the rules, you either reveal or don't reveal, but you always have to act out. So let's say I shoot you and I hit you with 2 damage cards. First one is a 0. I don't know that, but I'm like, okay, I dealt some damage. Second one is a jammed rudder to the right. What that means in the next turn after we clear our 3 moves, that cycle you're in, you have to move to the right. Then the rudder unjams itself. So what's interesting is some of these damage aspects, if the engine gets damaged, I have to do a stall at certain points. If you're playing with the rules where you don't reveal them, visually you start to look and say, all right, I've hit this plane. I noticed it's banking to the right. I noticed it's regularly stalling. I noticed it's on fire. Now, if it's on fire, that's one of the damages. We'll mention that because obviously it's on fire. You can see it. A lot of interesting aspects from that. What's a lot of fun is there are times, and we shuffle the deck up. We do, but you can hit someone like 5 or 6 times, and they're like, the cards they draw, 0, 0, 1, 2, 0, 0, 1. And you're like, I don't know what's going on. I mean, I'm hitting this plane with everything. And then there's other times where you take a lot of damage. But this happens at the exact same time. The exact same time. So everybody is going, moving, shooting, drawing cards at the same time. Then after your 3 turns of moving and shooting, you get your cards back and you reprogram your deck again. What are you going to do? How are you going to move it? Now, tactically, the planes, depending on, is it a pull plane or a push plane, depending on the weight, depending on the configuration of the wings, if it's early war or late war, some will have more armor, some will have less, some can be quicker, some can turn quicker, a lot of different varieties in the deck. So not everyone's playing with the same deck. Those are the base rules. Like literally, you can explain it or you can make a few moves and you understand the game. The tactical nuances are fantastic because you have to work as a team. I mean, it's air combat and it captures it absolutely perfectly. You try to stay on someone's tail. You try to shake someone off your tail. You blow past them, you're going to circle around. I mean, a lot of tactics. You try to gang up 2 or 3 on 1. You try to isolate. You try to work as a group. And certainly playing 1-to-1, you can control multiple planes. Usually we play with 2 groups of 3. Plays very, very fast, a lot of coordination. Playing as a group. Now, there are advanced rules where there's elevation and other elements, and there's rules for anti-aircraft fire. There's rules for bombing runs. There's rules for attacking trenches. Occasionally we'll play that, but the core rules are so fun and so light, and the miniatures are pre-painted, and everything's ready to go. That's the majority of our games. Now let's talk about house rules for fun. Because again, I like to really play big games. So we're playing 5, 6, 7, 8 on a side. Before the game starts, before the knights take to the sky, we're at the Aerodome, and we kind of, we've got the game set up, and one side goes to one corner of the room, the other side goes to the other corner of the room, and we talk our tactics. What groups, who's going to fly what, who's going to be what wingman, how are we going to stick? Are we going to stick as one big group? Are we going to break off? That's where we try and talk tactics, how we're going to work, what the opposition is going to be. Once you get into the game and you're programming things out, we're up in the air. There's no radios. There's no comm. There's no futuristic sci-fi, Star Trek, Star Wars, communicate somehow. No. All you have is hand signals at that point. So I can't say, bro, go to the right, bank to the right. I'm going to bank to the right. Let's go after him because he's taking a lot of hits and we can see the rudder's jammed and he's on fire. Let's finish him off. I can't communicate that. Maybe World War II. Maybe Star Wars, X-Wing miniatures, but Wings of Glory, World War I? No. Hand signals. You're only allowed to use hand signals. Of course, you can talk trash to your opponents and we have fun talking. That's part of the game. But that narrative is tactical. When you're planning out your deck, I can just point at someone, I point at you, and then I point to the right, or I give you a head nod or something. That's all you have to try to figure that out because we're up in the air and I can't hear you. I don't know what's saying. A lot of fun you can do to jump into the narrative. The final piece is being planes, being World War I, being fully painted, flipping cards, having some fun, moving them around. Everyone understands the game. Everyone can approach the game. Even if you're not a miniature wargamer or you're trying to run a convention and someone comes by, oh, what's that? You could jump in, play a few rounds, play some fun, and it just works all across the board. One of my favorite miniature games, and again, very light on the rules, but extremely nuanced, and the tactica to play it make this an excellent system to jump in and enjoy.